Hey, what's up, fam? Hope you guys are having a great day today. So I'm going to be talking about my GreatAxe+Hammer build for PvP, for open world if you want, but mainly for wars. This setup has been phenomenal in wars. I've been top leaderboarding with it. I've been doing insane amount of damage. It has been so much fun. So let's dive right into things before I hype it up too much, and let's go over attributes. So with this setup, I'm going to give a baseline. As you can see here, I have 240 strength and 205 constitution. The reason why my strength is so high right now is because I have a 30 plus strength food on right now. So originally I'm at 210 strength and 205 constitution. But the baselines you want to hit with this setup is you want to hit over 200 constitution and you want to be over 200 strength. So essentially if you hit 200 on the dot, that will also work. You just have to get all four of the first four bubbles. And say you don't want as much constitution with this setup, you can drop down to 150 constitution and get your strength up to 250 if you would like, but I highly recommend against it. I really don't think it is worth it. Because reason being, having more survivability also means putting out more DPS. You want to have high DPS, you need to be able to survive. So that's how those two kind of go hand in hand. And obviously dexterity, intelligence, focus, 0 points into it, 0 add-ons into it, because we're a strength build. There's no point in having points into that because GreatAxe and Warhammer only scale with strength. So now let's go over skills and let's go over GreatAxe first. So for the GreatAxe, you're gonna hit this left tree. You're gonna hit all the passes on this right side. You're gonna go with Greed. You're gonna go with Death's Embrace, and you're gonna go with Critical Condition. You're gonna come over to the left side, hit Critical Gains, get Frustration, get Keen Edge, and also get Feed. Reason being, of all these passes, essentially, like 2 of them are crit damage, crit chance, 2 more are healing. When you hit someone below 30% health, you get 10% of the healing done. Every crit you do, you get 10% of that healing. So basically what all these passes do on this left side, it'll increase your damage done to players and also increase your crit chance, and then it'll also increase your healing, which stacks onto increasing your survivability, which makes this build very high in survivability. So as for your first ability you want to use is you're going to use Charge. You're only going to get Charge. You're not going to get any of the add-ons. Reason being, you need the points for the right tree. Also, these add-ons aren't that important, to be honest. You really don't need them because this ability, you're not going to be using it for damage. You're mainly going to be using this ability as a getaway. You're going to engage on a group of 10 plus people in a war, and then when you realize that you're about to get like pooped on by them, you're going to turn around and get the heck out of there. You're going to charge and run away. Now that's left side of the tree. Let's go over to the right side of the tree. We'll hit passes first and then we'll go over the abilities. We are going to be using Enduring Strike. Reason being, this is really nice because it's a heavy attack that gives you grit. What grit does is you cannot be staggered, you cannot be knocked back, you cannot be knocked down. Essentially, the only thing they can do to you when you have grit on is they can stun you with a physical CC. So like Shield Bash from Sword and Shield, Shockwave from Warhammer, anything that actually CCs, the Spear Volt Kick CC, it has to physically CC you. Besides that, this ability is amazing because if you see someone about to use their knockdown or like their sweep from the spear where it knocks you on the ground and they stab you again, if you just hold down your left click a little bit longer, you go into heavy, you'll get grit instantly. On top of it, you get 20% damage reduction, which is huge. That's a imagine someone hit you for 1,000 damage and then you activate this, they're only hitting you for 800 damage. It's amazing. So you take advantage of that passive. Now for the second passive, we're going to be using Gravity. After you cause a pull, your foe is going to be held still 30% longer, which is really nice once we get into the last final 2 skills that we have. For our next passive, we are going to get Center of Attention. While holding the GreatAxe, you gain 10% damage when 3 or more foes are within 4 meters. Reason why this is so good is because in war, you're always going to have more than 3 people around you. You're a melee. You're going to be going into big groups of players. You're going to be fighting multiple players. So you're always going to have this 10% damage buff. And then for the other passive, you are going to use Crowded Protection. It's just like the one we just went over, but instead of getting 10% damage buff, you're going to get a 10% damage absorption buff. So when you have 3 or more foes around you, you get 10% damage reduction, which is huge. It just stacks together with the fact that you're going to be in a mob of players. You're going to be fighting. You're going to be swinging at everybody. So you're going to get that extra defense, you get that extra offense. And then for the final passive, we are going to be using Mauler's Fury. Now, reason being why I'm not using Bloodlust in wars compared to open world, and I'm using Mauler's Fury in war compared to open world. In war, Mauler's Fury is way more beneficial to you because you have haste pots. You don't need to worry about Bloodlust giving you your 30% movement speed because you can pop a haste pot and you can run at somebody. You can get in between a group as long as you don't get hit, and you move insanely fast with haste pots. So instead of taking advantage of the 30% movement speed and 15% more damage when you look at a foe, take advantage of Mauler's Fury, which by the time you do your combo with damage, you'll have it max stacked, and you'll have 30% increased damage instead of 15. That's double what Bloodlust gives. It's an insane amount of burst damage that you can do when you do the combo with this setup. Now let's talk about second skill. Second skill we are going to be using is Maelstrom. What this does, it's a fast spinning attack that pulls targets closer to you and deals 110% damage. I'll show you right now what it is. This ability is right here. It's 1, 2. The second spin is from an add-on, but let's talk about it. So add-on number 1 is Maelstrom's Storm's Reach. Extends the reach of Maelstrom. Basically, it just pulls people in, and you have a longer pull, which is nice. It's solid. Second add-on, this one is very important. It is called Absorb. Consumes all projectiles while Maelstrom is active. Now, say you're in war, say you're on a flag, you're capturing the point, you have all these archers and mages just pounding on the flag right now, and you're taking too much damage. When you pop Maelstrom, when you have this add-on, every single every single ranged ability that comes at you, you just dead stop it in its tracks and it falls to the ground. It doesn't do any damage to you or your team on the flag. So it's defensive for you and it's defensive for your team on the flag. It's huge. It's very helpful. And it procs on both spins of Maelstrom, not just the first one. Now let's talk about the third add-on. This is the one that gave me the second spin. It's called No Reply. Basically gives the second spin that also pulls, does the exact same thing as the first spin. Now for the third ability you are going to be using on GreatAxe is going to be Gravity Well. Gravity Well is this ability right here. I shall show you. You throw a blue axe out, you make this rift in the world, and it just traps everybody inside it. So what it does is when you get it on a group of 5 people, it'll pull them all together when you throw it. When that gravity well hits, it'll pull them together, and enemies that are inside it cannot use their dodge to get out. The only way to get out of this ability is by using charge, like this, as a getaway, using your rapier dash, using the bow evade shot, etc. Any abilities that can give them like a little dash movement. That is the only way out of this ability if you're dead smack in the center. So the reason being why it's so good is you're going to throw your gravity well and you're going to trap an entire group of players in war, because there's going to be like 10 plus players usually stacked on top of each other, and you just get this easy combination of 10 people in your gravity well. And this is why we're going to also be putting only 1 point into the first add-on. We're not going to be getting the second add-on because it's really not needed, because we already have 10% fortify from our own passives, and then we have 20% damage reduction from enduring strikes. So with this setup you have 30% damage reduction, so you really don't need another 10%. But what this does is called Crowded Well. It'll increase the burst damage by 10% for each foe caught in the vortex. So at the end of Gravity Well, it blows up. When it blows up, it does 125% weapon damage. Now with this ability, for each foe, it'll get increased by 10%. So back to the scenario, you hit 10 people and they're all inside your Gravity Well. Imagine 10 people, that's 100% extra damage from this first passive. So say your first 125% weapon damage, you hit everybody for 1600 damage. Boom, it's actually 3200 damage, because this passive made it 100% stronger, which is essentially doubling the damage. It's insane damage. So that's the GreatAxe. Let's talk about Warhammer. Let's talk about your back bar. This is like your defensive. This is what you're going to use to heal, to stun, to stagger, to just make people hate you because they can't run away or they can't move. It's so obnoxious, but it works so well. So let's go over the left side. The left side is strictly passives, reason being this will increase your damage. It gives grit. The left side is just all about damage and grit. So you're going to start off on the right side up here. It's going to be hammer time. You gain empower on a heavy attack, increasing attack damage by 20%, which is huge. Essentially, before you use any of your abilities on the hammer, you're going to do one heavy attack, slam it, get your empower, and then use your ability. And then rinse and repeat that in between every single ability. Then for the second passive you're going to get Hardened Steel. This is just like the GreatAxe that you have enduring strikes, you get empowered when you swing. This is the same thing. When you're in your heavy attack, you get grit, and it's a 20% damage reduction. And on top of it, they can't soft CC you. They can only hard CC you with shockwave or a stun from sword and shield, volt kick from spear, etc. So it works the same way as the GreatAxe. So take full advantage of the fact that you can't be knocked down, and that grit is going to give you that 20% damage reduction. It's huge. Now, for the third passive, we are going to go into exhaustive attacks. All Warhammer abilities apply exhaust. This is just a really good way to debuff opponents, because in war, you are going to be hitting multiple players, and you're pretty much going to be putting a whole bunch of debuffs on many, many players. For the fourth passive, you are going to be putting into Contemption on targets below 30% HP. Increases damage done with heavy attacks by 15%. Now, this passive isn't really needed. If you want, you can put your point into Wrecking Ball, but we're not going to be using Wrecking Ball in this setup. But if you want to have access to it, you can. But I would put it into passive because, like I said, you're not going to be using the ability, so why not just have that extra 15% damage on your heavy attacks on players? You know, why not have it? For your 5th passive, you are going to be using Quick Recovery. Cooldowns are reduced by 7% with heavy attacks. And with this setup, like I said, you're going to go heavy attack, ability, heavy attack, ability, heavy attack, ability. So by the time you use all 3 of your abilities, and as long as you weave heavy attacks in between each attack and it lands on your opponent, your first ability that you use should either be close to 2 or 3 second cooldown, or it should be off cooldown. And then for the final passive, you are going to get Power Through Pain. For 1 second after taking damage, deal 35% extra damage. And in war, you're on a flag, you're melee, you're a bruiser setup, you're going to be on flag, you're going to be fighting, you're always going to be taking damage when you're on your hammer. So guess what? You're always going to have that extra 35% damage, which is huge. It's such a big buff. It's a lot of damage. Alright, so now let's go over the right side. We'll go over the 3 little passes that I have points into, and then we'll go into skills. Well, actually 4 passes if you count the bottom one. So for the first one, you're going to get Outnumbered. Increased damage absorption by 10% if surrounded by 2 or more enemies. This is just like the GreatAxe ability, where it gives you that 10% damage absorption. Because like I said, you're in war, you're on flag, you're going to have multiple people around you, so you're always going to have this up when the ability's out, when your Warhammer's out. For the second passive, you are going to have Concussive Impact. You get plus 15% damage against targets affected by Warhammer debuffs. Now, we can bring this back to the left side. You see how we had points into exhaustive attacks? Putting exhaust on someone will allow your 15% damage to proc on everybody, your extra damage, for your abilities to then start applying. So this passive is huge for damage wise. So this stacks on top of your 35% after Power Through Pain. You have a total of 50% damage increase while you're on your Warhammer with these 2 passives alone. Only 2, it's crazy. So let's talk about the third passive. We're going to be putting Prevailing Spirit. Regain 35% of damage dealt as health when using a Crowd Crusher ability. Now this passive is huge. As you can see, all 3 of our abilities are from the Crowd Crusher tree. And it is just amazing, the healing you get. Because in war, you're most likely going to hit like 10 plus people with your Crowd Crusher abilities. Which means, say you hit 1 person for 1k and everybody else you hit for 1k. That's 10 people for 1k, and then out of 35% of the damage you deal, it will come back as health. So 35% of 1k is 350 health. You get 350 health from every 10 person, so 350 times 10, you're getting, what is that, 3,500 health back off 1 ability. Like, that's crazy. It's great for sustainability in wars. And then for the final passive, you're going to come down to the bottom and you're going to get Aftershock. Whenever a target is affected by a crowd control effect, they are also slowed by 20% for 4 seconds. So as you can see, your Warhammer backbar is kind of going to be all about like having a bunch of debuffs on enemies and a bunch of healing for yourself. So now let's go over abilities. For the first ability, we are going to be using Shockwave. This is where you jump up, you slam the hammer on the ground. I will demonstrate it right now. You jump up, slam down. When that hits, it stuns everybody in an AoE around you. And it also applies some debuffs as well as your exhaustive, your slow. It also applies Weaken. As you can see, this is the first add-on you want to get put points into. And then for the second add-on is going to be Meteoric Crater, which just expands the radius of your stun, which makes it easier to stun more players. Then for the second ability, we are going to be using Clear Out. This is in the middle. We are going to be putting only 2 of the add-ons on because I did test. If you put this third add-on in, when using Clear Out on a target grants haste, increase the movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. But by the time you're actually done the animation, you only have about half a second to a second of the actual 30% haste movement speed. So it's not worth wasting a point on that last add-on. But it is worth it for Power Cleaning, which gives you Fortify when you hit enemies. And then it's also worth to do Clean and Refreshed. For every opponent you hit, you reduce the cooldown of it by 5%. Like I said, in war, you're on the flag, you have multiple players around you. You hit 10 people with that, that is 50% ability cooldown. Like, you can't beat that. You hit 10, that's 100% cooldown. You get your ability back, you can go boom, one clear out, boom, right into another. It's too good to not have the second add-on. And the third add-on, like I said, skip it, ignore it. For the third ability, we are going to be using Path of Destiny. Now, actually, let me show you Clear Out real quick. I'm sorry. This is Path of Destiny, and this is Clear Out. As you can see, Clear Out is a 180 degree. Path of Destiny was a straight line as 3 dots. So what it does is when you put the first add-on in, Path of Destiny now staggers. So when you go through an entire group of people, as you can see, the ability is big, it's large, it travels far. So if you use that while you're in front of the flag, it's going to travel and it's going to pretty much hit everybody. It's going to hit the back line, it's going to hit the front line. Everybody's going to be staggered, which is huge with the first add-on. And the second add-on, for each enemy hit, it reduces the cooldown by 5%. Just like Clear Out, it's too good to not have because you're going to use it, you're going to hit so many people, so why not have it? You'll get insane cooldowns for it. So that is the abilities we're using for Warhammer and GreatAxe. Now let's go over gear. You guys saw my attributes, you guys saw abilities and the weapons. Now let's go over the important stuff. Let's go over gear. For the gear that I am running, it is full Covenant gear. Reason being, Covenant gear looks sick AF. Tell me this like doesn't look cool. Like look at the cape you got, a nice hat. Covenant gear looks cool, and it's also very easy, really good gear to get early in the game right now. So all you have to do is grind Covenant quests, or whatever faction you're on. I'm sorry, I'm Covenant, that's why I say Covenant, but you just grind faction quests. In total, the chest is like, I think chest is 30,000, head is 20,000 tokens, so that there's 50,000 tokens. So you have to, it's a bit of a grind, but then gauntlets are 15,000, so there you have 65,000. Legs, I'm pretty sure are 25,000. So now you're up to 90,000. And then for boots, boots are going to be 10,000, which gives your grand total of every piece of armor being 100,000 faction tokens. Now it's a bit of a grind, like I said, but it's 100% worth it because the perks that they have on it are just too good to give up. And then you can also respec them to be strength and constitution, which is what we want. Now let's go over what the pieces are. So the helmet is heavy, the chest is heavy, our gloves are medium, our pants are light, and our boots are medium. Reason being why they need to be set up like this is it puts you in that medium zone for equip load. It puts you at 22.9 out of 50, which gives you a little hop, but it also gives you 10% bonus damage, healing, and also increases crowd control debuffs by 10%. They last longer. So it's huge for your Warhammer, and it also gives nice tankiness because you're a bruiser, so you want to be in the fight. Now you can do full heavy if you want. I just prefer medium because it allows the build to be more mobile and to get out of sticky situations. So let's go over jewelry now. The jewelry, the amulet I'm wearing is Infinity Crystal. This is a quest piece of jewelry. You can get it really easily. It's from the Shattered Mountains, but it's great. It gives plus 23 strength, gives divine, fortified, and health, which are 3 amazing perks to get on a necklace. For the ring, I'm using a plus 22 strength. Just essentially make sure your jewelry is all plus strength. The ring I don't really have fully what I want. What you really want on a ring, if you do have access to it, is you want refreshing and keen. Keen increases crit chance by 10%, which GreatAxe has high crit chance, so that just stacks with it really well. And then refreshing, as you can see on the ring I have now, it reduces max cooldowns by 2.6%. So with all your armor having it on top of your ring having it, it's just all your abilities are very low cooldown, which is very nice. And then for the earring I'm using Doom's Chance earring. This is a name drop from Genesis, if I am not mistaken. Again, plus 20 strength. What it does is it gives regeneration and refreshing toast. So if you do have a legendary earring, or if you have an earring, you want to at least shoot to get regenerating on your earring, because it gains you that health recovery every second, which will stack when you eat food and you start getting health regen. So now talking about food, let's talk about the consumables and then we'll hit the weapons. So first, your attribute food we are going to be using, I'm using clam chowder because it increases strength by 30. There is increased strength by 40 food, but it's kind of expensive to make and stuff right now. So like financially, I think clam chowder works as a grade A like place and slot of the 40 strength. But if you're rich in the game and you have crazy resources, go for the 40 plus 40 strength. We are going to be using Hearty Meal. We are going to be using Strong Honing Stones. I can't make the tier 5 ones yet, but if you can make them, like again with the food, do it. It's 100% worth it. But tier 5, it'll be 500% instead of 400%. But this increases your weapon damage. This item is huge. You're going to be using regeneration potions for healing, and then on top of it, infused health potions. Now let's go over the important part. Let's go over weapons as well. So the GreatAxe we are using the Covenant GreatAxe, and we are using the Covenant Warhammer. These two weapons alone both cost 50,000 tokens, so it's another 100,000 tokens. So in total, like your entire gear cost, since it's all faction, will cost you 200,000 faction tokens. Is a lot of grinding, but honestly, if you just go grind Reekwater quest, this is what I do. You grind Reekwater faction quest, you'll get it done in like 2-3 hours, give or take, maybe 4. Depends on how fast you're going. But that's what we're using. They're all full strength. And then the gems we have in the weapons is Gambit. When you're not at full stamina, you get plus 15% damage. Because when you're fighting, you're going to be dodging around a lot, so you're pretty much never at full stamina. And then for all the gems on your armor, we are rocking all Onyx gems because your melee, you're going to be getting attacked by a lot of melee. So you want to reduce as much physical damage as you can. Now, so that's the armor. So in overall, we went over attribute points, 200 baseline, keep that in mind. Weapon mastery, GreatAxe, we got charge, Maelstrom, gravity well, For the Warhammer, we are going to be using Shockwave, Clear Out, and Path of Destiny. And then for our gear, it's full faction gear and full faction weapons, and it's going to be cost you around 200,000 tokens, so it's a bit of a grind, but it's 100% worth it. So guys, I hope you enjoy. Let me know how you like this build. Honestly, in open world it works really well, but in wars it shines the best. In probably like a day or two, I'm going to release a war video of me just using this setup, and I easily dropped 1.4 million damage in a ward, out DPSing like almost all of our mages in a war, which is insane. It's crazy. As a melee, it's too good. It's too good to not use this setup. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.